2019 is one of the better years in film that we've had in the past 20 years or so. I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite of the 2010s, but it's definitely up there, and a lot of people consider it to be such. So since it's been 5 years, I want to react to what my top 10 films of that year were at the time. Obviously, my taste in film has changed since then, so it's going to be really interesting going back and seeing where I differ now.
It is that time once again where we have come to the end of a year. 2019 has brought us some great films. So in this video,
I'm so sorry I didn't know how to sync my audio and video. On the plus side, this quality is already a million times better than whatever I was doing in 2018.
there's going to be movies that you like that I missed and did not put on this list. There's also going to be a lot of movies that I haven't seen yet, and it's driving me crazy. I have not yet seen Uncut Gems, Little Women, and a lot of other great...
Not seeing Little Women before recording this video was a huge mistake. I think I literally saw it on January 1st, and it would have absolutely made this list.
Before we get to the actual list, I'm going to just list off some movies that I do think still need to be mentioned. They just didn't quite crack my list. I want to give two very big shout outs to Netflix movies, both The Irishman and Marriage Story.
The Irishman is a film I haven't revisited, but I don't really have a huge desire to. Marriage Story, on the other hand, I do really need to rewatch, mostly because a lot of film people I really respect still regard it as one of the best films of the past 10 years. I enjoyed it when I first watched it. I just haven't seen it since, so I'm sure my opinion of it would grow.
There weren't a lot of amazing horror movies in this year. However, we did get Ready or Not in Midsommar.
Midsommar absolutely should be on this list. I've rewatched it several times since 2019, and I think I can confidently say it is my favorite Ari Aster.
Rocketman was by far the best musical this year. Lighthouse was one of the most interesting films I've just seen in general. Great comic book movie from Joker with great drama in The Last Black Man in San Francisco. I enjoy all those movies. However, what is on my top 10? So coming in at 10 is Ford v Ferrari.
I legitimately forgot that this was number 10.
Cinematography of the racing seasons are incredible with a very compelling story.
I don't really dislike this movie. I just don't really think it stood the test of time because I honestly have hardly thought of it since it was released.
So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the 9th film from Quentin Tarantino, and I absolutely adore this movie. Right now, it's probably top 5, maybe even top 3 of his films that I just love. Now,
I feel like that might be a controversial opinion, but I guess I still would regard it as one of his top 5 films. It's very good, especially when you consider the younger cast in that film and seeing how many of them have had successful careers since then. So I don't hate this placement on the list.
The Farewell is just an amazing movie, and Awkwafina is just incredible at what she does in this movie.
I still stand that is one of the bigger Oscar sums of that year, even though I understand the politics around it and it probably was never going to happen. This movie is still a very personal one. I did lose my grandma that same summer that it was released, so in the moment this was a movie that spoke about the exact situation I was in, but I still really admire this film and the memories I have with it.
Booksmart tells the story of two high school girls wanting to live one night of just freedom, fun, no worries. They spent their whole high school career being goody-goody two-shoes, and now here is their time to just go all out and have a great...
Yeah, I really don't know how to feel about this one. I still like the movie. I think I definitely overrated it a bit just because at the time it felt like something we didn't really see a lot of. And the Olivia Wilde of it all makes it a lot more interesting, especially considering Jason Sudeikis in this film and how much I disliked the next film she directed. So I really don't think this would be in my top 10 if I were to redo the list right now.
Number 6, we see Jordan Peele's second movie, Us. Now, this is a horror movie through and through. He tweeted out that Us is a horror movie. He wants to make it perfectly clear. This is a horror movie. Us is a...
Yeah, I still like Us. I know a lot of people think it's the worst of his 3. And even if that is true, I think the worst film in his filmography is the best film in the majority of directors' filmographies. I still like this movie. I think it's very effective in what it's trying to do. I think the nitpicks that people have with it don't really bother me all that much. So it's absolutely a top 10 of this year.
Jojo Rabbit, directed by Taika Waititi, is another movie that just proves Taika Waititi is an incredible director, and I cannot wait to see so many films directed by him.
I don't think this one aged particularly well. And it's not even the Jojo Rabbit of it all, because I don't dislike the movie. It's definitely surrounding the Taika Waititi of it all, which has just been overkill since 2019. And at the time, I only saw Ragnarok and then Jojo Rabbit, so it was kind of a fresh take on a dark story, and his humor was novel to me. So while this wouldn't be on my list today, I still think it's a good enough film, and I appreciate that I have this relic to see how much I appreciated it back in 2019.
The Art of Self-Defense, I believe, is one of the most underrated movies of this year.
I still stand by that take. The Art of Self-Defense, not enough people saw. even to this day. And I have seen some people that have watched it and don't really appreciate what it's trying to do. But to me, its dry sense of humor and its witty take on toxic masculinity is still something I think about today. I think it's one of my favorite Eisenberg performances. So if you take nothing else from this video, please at least take this as a strong recommendation to try this film out.
Knives Out coming at number 3 shouldn't be a surprise to too many people, especially if you've seen my review on it. Again, link down in the description. But I love Knives Out. I love Rian Johnson. I know that's super controversial to say in this day and age, but he's a great director. I'm sorry, I love his work. Knives Out does something.
Knives Out is very interesting, because I think the glass onion of it all and the selling out to Netflix definitely taints the film a little bit. But if we're looking at the film itself, I still think it holds up particularly well in what it is doing. I think in 2019, we were definitely lacking the murder mystery genre, and it's fascinating to see 5 years later how many different forms of entertainment have picked that up, whether it be movies, TV shows, and I think a lot of that credit goes to Knives Out for kind of setting the standard of how good these films can be. And so I would still defend this film, despite me thinking the sequel and probably no other future movie is going to be as good as it.
Parasite is just a beautiful film. It again saddens me that it's not going to get as much Oscar love as it deserves, but like the director Bong Joon-ho has said, the Oscars are a regional film festival.
This take did not hold up at all. That is so funny. But I think shows how little hope I have in general for these award shows. And yet I was proved wrong in the best way possible. This film got so much well-deserved praise. And honestly, I think this probably should be at number 1, especially because now I'm remembering what is number 1. But I also haven't seen this film in a couple of years. I watched it several times since I first saw it in theaters, but I think this is just making me want to queue it up all over again.
My number 1 movie of 2019 is Avengers Endgame. So Avengers Endgame is just such a personal movie to me. I grew up watching these movies, and I know growing up, right, I was in high school when they first started coming out, but however, they were like very important to those years of my life. This movie wraps up 20 plus movies that I grew up watching, every single one.
I would not have this at number 1 today. I still like Endgame. It's still one of my favorite MCU films. I would give it 5 stars again. But this is one of those instances where I just want a pass to not have to view a film for its technical aspects, its acting, its storyline, where I just want to turn off my brain, watch big explosions with characters that I care about. And I understand the hypocrisy in what I'm saying, because other films from other franchises I completely do not give this pass to. And no, I would not have it at number 1 if I were to do this list today. But at the time, I genuinely felt that this was one of cinema's greatest achievements. And while history might not have shown that to be the case, I do appreciate that I have this cultural relic to show what I valued back in 2019. So let's talk about a couple other films. I already mentioned how Little Women should absolutely be on this list, and Midsommar also would be. But Portrait of a Lady on Fire is one that I didn't see until 2020, despite it having a limited 2019 release. And I just think it's a beautiful film that deserves a spot on this list if I were to redo it today. So the biggest changes I would make would be removing Ford v Ferrari, Jojo Rabbit, and Booksmart. My top 3 would be Parasite, Little Women, Avengers Endgame, probably Knives Out, then Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Art of Self-Defense, Us, this is where I slip in Midsommar, The Farewell, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So those were my top 10 of 2019, and here's my new top 10. But let me know what you think. Are there any films from 2019 that I missed and deserved a spot on this list? And honestly, how bad were my choices back then? I look forward to reading your comments, and I will see you next time.